Mommy's pregnant! Yes, Mommy's pregnant!
Mom, you're pregnant! No, Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait, no!
I don't know. I can't partake in sin, so I said I will not pull out. I will not do anything that is going to prevent God from giving us life.
Mothers who do not give an absolute shit for their children and continuously put their babies' faces out in the world for these
My kids saw my stomach and they just died laughing. They were squeezing it like slime. I am currently possibly still pregnant with a miscarriage baby. It was a cute moment with me and my children. I didn't think anybody would even watch it. And we cannot find anywhere in the Bible that gives us permission to choose to prevent, sterilize.
Did God really command every parent to keep reproducing until they've created the size of a soccer team? Well, this TikTok mom, Karissa Collins, believes so.
It's literally in the Bible. But that is what we believe. And so we encourage women and families, not just women, but families, to trust God with however many children He wants to give.
She took the word "be fruitful and multiplied 11 times, giving birth to 7 girls and 4 boys.
Say, Mommy's pregnant!
While some parents might set their dream family to 2 or 3 kids, people like Karissa hope to create an army. This is just like the Nickelodeon cartoon series The Loud House, which also features a large family of 11 children. We've seen them in other unique families, like the Rodriguez family with their 13 kids.
Adhering to the print table.
And the Duggar family from TLC's show 19 and Counting.
We're the Duggars. That's me. I'm Michelle. There's Jim Bob, my wonderful husband, and our children.
However, with the Collins, it's more intense than you can imagine because Karissa is a nutcase. This is a mother who let her children beat her stomach when she had miscarried.
The problem is you have give all this information out on TikTok. Everybody knows what has happened with this child. You then post a video with your other kids slapping and punching a belly that has a deceased
Karissa is the brains behind her family's TikTok account, The Collins Kids, which has 1 million followers. Her husband, Mandre Collins, features as a background character, along with their 11 children and counting. Karissa really has a hard time convincing the internet that she's a good mom with the way she uses her own kids for social media content. She built her entire platform around one belief, that God is the one who decides when families can stop having kids. And she believes that any attempt to prevent pregnancy through birth control, condoms, or even pulling out is a sin.
Is that the Bible is true, and we cannot find anywhere in the Bible that gives us permission to choose to prevent, sterilize, or...
This woman has pulled all forms of crazy stunts on the internet. She made her kids hit her pregnant belly, which, quite sickeningly, was carrying a dead fetus. And it doesn't end there. Karissa proudly teaches that poor people should have kids as much as they like because poverty is no excuse, and she doesn't believe in prenatal care or vaccinations. This story is so disturbing that it would leave you wondering how such a mother is running loose on the internet. We're talking about major child negligence. This is a mother who would post videos of her injured kids. And she doesn't even take her 11 kids to school. For her, homeschooling is a divine instruction from God.
And I decided to homeschool, first of all, because...
She's not worried about the fact that not sending her kids to school might limit their social interactions and make them awkward among their peers. As she's also claimed that God had performed multiple miracles in her family, maybe your faith in God is more powerful than others, including a case where she was healed of multiple sclerosis for obeying his word. However, she's also been kicked out of the hospital for scream praying, which was basically her screaming and praying for a baby in the antenatal ward. And the story only gets darker from there. How did this TikTok mom become a notorious name on the internet? What are the harmful philosophies she teaches her kids and supporters? And most importantly, where's her husband, Mandre, in all these controversies? Because his quiet attitude, along with Chris's overbearing behavior, really creates a recipe for disaster for their 11 children. Grab your popcorn as we enter the terrifying world of Karissa Collins.
There's a dark side to these massive families going viral, and nobody's going to talk about it, so I will. It's not just the matching outfit. It's not just the choreographed Bible verses. It's the emotional neglect disguised as tradition. There are kids being raised by their siblings.
So who are the Collins? Well, Karissa Collins isn't your average mom influencer. She's married to Mandre Collins, and together they've created a soccer team, 11 children and counting. Now, from the looks of it, Mandre seems to be on board with this family planning system.
You need to be happy.
I don't know. How much stuff is there?
And it would make sense, though, since he's partly responsible for the family tree he and Karissa are currently sprouting.
Gonna get one, all right? It's just one, all right? How bad could one be? It's not that expensive. It's not, well, I mean, I have to get it a friend, right? I mean, who's he gonna talk to? He's gonna get bored. And you know, what if they get sick of each other? You know, they need a third guy. And honestly, I have 3.
Also, he's been working in auto finance for 15 years and owns a basketball company called Kingdom Hoops. This shows that their family's finances are somewhat moderate, and it's why they can afford the fine clothes and photo shoots they post on social media. On the surface, their TikTok presence seems like any other large family content. It's cute and playfully chaotic, and the overall aesthetic could really have you wishing you were part of the fun. Their most viral video, which hit a staggering 46 million views and 2 million likes, is basically the family showcasing their year of birth.
You wanna put a ring on my finger?
This is just to show you a glimpse of what makes them interesting to watch on social media. The Collins family somehow manages to capture attention through their family information.
Nope. 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 Yep.
Another similar example is this other viral video of them where Karissa and Mandre reveal how old they were when they had each of their children.
The good times go by too fast. Yeah, I wish time would take a little slower. Sometimes.
This video amassed over 41 million views and 1.1 million likes. Now, having a large family isn't exactly problematic. Plenty of people grew up in big families and turned out fine. Take Kevin from Home Alone, for instance.
What else could we be forgetting?
Kevin!
Despite being neglected a handful of times, he still managed to take care of himself better than most kids out there. Aside from their huge numbers, the Collins family were notable for something else: their racially diverse kids. Karissa possesses beautiful white skin with blue eyes, and Mandre is a tall, dark, and handsome man. Together, their kids are a blend of tanned skin, blue and brown eyes. Commenters always adored this feature. Furthermore, the children have unique names. All 11 of them have names starting with the letter A. Karissa shared her family's naming culture on social media, and it's by far the most interesting part of the story. Their firstborn and first daughter, Anissa, was inspired by a show that they had watched before she was born. The second child, a boy, was named Andre, which was just his father's name minus the letter M. And just like that, the naming culture remained spontaneous. After their third child, Anistan, Karissa claimed that God started directly telling her what to name her children. Through this revelation, names like Angel, Answer, Anchor, Anderson, Anthem, Armor, and Arrow came into the picture, and their kids were stuck with them.
If you catch me at the border, I got visas in my name. If you come around
Together with their middle names and the last name Collins, Karissa and her husband ensured that the kids bore similar initials, ABC for girls and ACC for boys. And that's about the only fun area this family has. Beyond just the sheer number of kids and their skin tone, the Collins family also represents one of the internet's most notorious cases of child exploitation. That's because before their TikTok fame, Karissa Collins had been documenting her children's lives since their infancy.
Good morning, Anthem.
Here you go, baby. Anchor, move.
Anchor's gonna catch her.
She did this on YouTube, where she retains almost 200 followers. On this platform, Karissa posted videos of her babies as far back as 2011. Karissa has always posted her children on the internet for the world to see. Fast forward to 2025, this pattern of posting content with her children has become her brand. If you scroll through all her social media accounts, you'll only see the familiar faces of the Collins kids and nothing else. Even her personal Facebook page serves as a general family page with close to 2 million followers. However, Karissa doesn't seem to be aware of her exploitative tendencies. She uses her children to gain likes on social media and doesn't even realize it. And honestly, with the controversies surrounding her, many people easily overlook her internet branding style. Karissa Collins has to be one of the most problematic moms on TikTok right now. This is because she has strong religious beliefs, and these beliefs have endangered innocent lives and put this family at the face of one of TikTok's most controversial accounts today. Speaking of controversies, this is one of Karissa's most disturbing cases. Karissa posted a video of her children slapping and squeezing her stomach. They were playing with it like a stress ball, laughing and having fun, not knowing that it wasn't normal. It could be interpreted as a cute family moment, right? Except Karissa's stomach contained a deceased baby. Yes, you heard that right. At the time the video was posted, Karissa knew the baby no longer had a heartbeat. This was her most recent pregnancy, the one that could have been baby number 12. But none of this matters to her because in her journey to motherhood, Karissa had experienced 4 miscarriages, and she posted the updates on her social media accounts. Here's one example. In this Facebook post, she explained that she was in the middle of a miscarriage. It was a rough weekend. I ended up in the ER and am unfortunately in the middle of a miscarriage. Thank you for your celebrations and prayers. We're blessed to have Yahuwah as our comfort and will be taking a few days off. Oh, and by the way, Yahuwah is what she calls God. It's a different word from Yahweh, the Hebrew translation, and she always spells it in that way in all her posts. Have this at the back of your mind as we proceed. So moving on, Karissa always keeps her followers updated on her pregnancy. It just so happens that the most recent one broke the internet. It was the one which occurred sometime around July of 2025. After the video received a lot of backlash, Karissa quickly deleted it. Then, on August 7th, about 3 weeks after the incident, she posted a final update on her pregnancy on Facebook. Clipped with what she claimed was the only surviving photo of this pregnancy, Karissa explained the tragic event. The baby died around 7 weeks, but at 20 weeks my body still wouldn't miscarry the baby, so I had a D&C yesterday. I have an amazing doctor that did a great job. It appeared the sac was stuck. I've spent months processing and grieving this baby, and I waited 13 weeks until I went ahead with the surgery. We are ready to move on and praising God that my body is still healthy and whole. For reference, a D&C is a medical procedure that involves removing tissue from the inside the uterus. At the time of making the video, Karissa had been carrying the miscarriage in the hopes that her body would naturally expel the pregnancy.
Hey guys, so I'm just making hopefully a quick video because I've tried to do this before and it was 30 minutes long, trying to make it a little bit quicker. So ignore my hair, not done, we're going swimming later. Anyway, I wanted to talk about a video.
But when this didn't happen, the doctors resorted to D&C. This was quite an unfortunate situation. It's painful for any mother, even Karissa, despite this being her 15th pregnancy in a row. But the problem here is, why post the moment online? Especially for millions to see. From the comments, you'd know that a lot of users were triggered by the video. Their words were unforgiving. A lot of people told Karissa that this might be her big sign from God to let her body rest. But Karissa, being who she is, didn't care for anyone's opinions. These were genuine concerns about what happens when you get pregnant excessively without allowing your body to heal between pregnancies. Karissa had been pregnant a total of 15 times. This video was from 2024 when she was expecting her baby Arrow, her current last-born. During this period, Karissa had suffered 3 miscarriages, and less than a year after Arrow's birth, she took in again. Anyone could see that she had an addiction at this point.
Karissa Collins, the Collins family, right? It's a white woman, a black man, and they're on their 12th child. Once you start hitting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're either addicted to making babies or you see babies as easy money / content.
And it didn't just end with pregnancy addiction. The main problem was that Karissa wasn't putting herself out there as a good mother, exposing your kids to the world of dead fetuses and doing content about how you and your husband don't use protection doesn't necessarily earn you a gold medal in parenting. To make matters worse, Karissa told the internet in a now deleted Instagram post that her daughter Anderson had tried to resurrect the baby. In other words, her daughter tried to raise the baby from the dead. Karissa wrote, "With a heavy yet grateful heart, I deliver this news. I had a sonogram today and got to see our sweet baby. There's no longer a heartbeat. You don't understand how much you love someone until they're gone. My body doesn't have any signs of miscarriage. Everything looks great except a missing heartbeat. I came home and told my children, and Anderson immediately prayed for a resurrection. Nothing is impossible for Yahuwah, so until my body passes this baby, we will believe for that." Let that sink in. Karissa made her children, young children from ages 2 to 9 who don't fully understand death, believe that they had control over the life of a dead fetus. Can you imagine the bad mental orientation it gives a child who hasn't even clocked 10 years old yet? This is where Karissa's ideology becomes genuinely harmful. Because it's one thing to have religious beliefs yourself. It's another thing entirely to force those beliefs, like the power of resurrection, onto children as young as 2 years old, who don't have the capacity to consent or understand its implications. Karissa had made her kids hit her pregnant belly and told them to pray for the dead fetus. What kind of parent does that? The miscarriage video really struck a lot of nerves. It left TikTokers angry and calling it disturbing. It feels like she wanted them to punish the fetus for miscarrying. Their angel sibling in there, and she's encouraging them to hit it. It's so disturbing. She's encouraging this strange behavior. She told those innocent babies to do that. It was just a thunderstorm of outrage for anyone who came across Karissa Collins and her trending story. And it was only when the backlash became so intense that Karissa made a response video. It was 18 minutes long and contained more justification for her actions. Karissa started off with a brief word of apology.
First thing I want to say is I apologize. When I posted that video, what's on other people's minds was not on.
Then the whole direction of the video completely spiraled into something more disturbing. That's because Karissa first claimed that it was a cute moment for her and her kids, and she had no idea people would watch it.
It was a cute moment with me and my children. I didn't think anybody would even watch it.
This statement is quite funny considering she has 1 million followers across their social media accounts who would have actually seen the video. And here's where it gets interesting. Karissa claimed that she didn't post content to gain followers, and her only purpose was to spread God's words and encourage women to trust Him with their wombs.
I'm not all about a following. I just am simply here to share the message that God has given me and the ministry that I have, which is just encouraging women that you can trust God with your womb, that you can rely on Him to give you His blessings in children, and what I believe the Bible says about that. People find that offensive, dangerous, disgusting, and disturbing, and I don't know why. So let me just quickly address what my theology is, because, I mean, if that's the word you want to use, people are saying my theology is messed up. This is what we believe. We believe that all life is from God, that He knows you before He forms you in the womb, that children are a blessing and a gift.
She blatantly seized the opportunity of apology to double down on her religious beliefs, and that's really how the rest of the video goes. Karissa only talks about her viewpoint on the pregnancy, from her experience and her biblical interpretations.
We believe that all life is from God, that He knows you before He forms you in the womb, that children are a blessing and a gift.
Notice how quickly this went from "I'm sorry for upsetting people" to "let me preach about why my beliefs are correct." Classic deflection technique. And this is not even the end of Karissa Collins' saga, because by keeping this miscarriage issue aside, her name had spread all around for yet another intriguing story, her miracle list. Karissa made a post on Instagram about a list of miracles God had bestowed on her family. Now, this was an image of a frame she had custom made and hung on her family's wall in their house, and it contained a list of incidents that she believed had worked out perfectly fine due to God's intervention. The post is deleted now because, as usual, it was quite unsettling. You won't believe what the tablet was all about. On one hand, it contained some harmless details like family unity, God's grace with their family size, the safe deliveries she had always had with her children, and many more instances that would make the average family thank God at church. However, on the other hand, the tablet contained some disturbing things that could land child protective services at their doorstep. Karissa wrote a handful of other disturbing miracles. According to her, one of her children had their hand broken, and after fasting and praying together, it healed completely. One child had 2 broken wrists and was healed by God. Another child had a broken leg, healed by God, and she herself had been healed of broken ribs. Furthermore, in another Facebook post, she also outlined these cases, along with her healing from multiple sclerosis just because she obeyed God's word. Can you believe that? These cases are shocking. First, let's consider how often the children are suffering from fractures in the family. This isn't a regular occurrence. Then, as if that wasn't bad enough, Karissa basically claimed that her children had been healed by God. This meant that their healing was supernatural and no medical intervention had taken place. But this is unsettling no matter how you look at it. The concerning thing about this list isn't that Karissa believed in miracles. People can believe whatever they want about divine intervention. The main disturbing factor is what's implied, that she didn't seek proper medical care for her children, that she relied on prayer instead of doctors, that she waited for divine healing instead of setting bones and casts. If the children were not healed and it was too late for medical intervention, they would have suffered serious repercussions. At worst, the children would have been in heaven with their maker. Karissa was truly putting her children in danger, and she was showing it to the world through this disturbing post. As you probably guessed it, no one on social media was comfortable with it. So many kids with injuries. The plural broken wrists and bones is gut-wrenching. It's nice of her to keep a record of her children's mistreatment and literally hang it on her wall. Karissa had no idea that she had publicized her negligence to the internet, and although she deleted the post soon after, it still remained on platforms like Reddit for the world to see and remember. And sadly, her story hasn't even reached its peak at this point. Sadly, with Karissa, there's always new incidents to top the old. Still on the topic of her extreme religious beliefs, here's one that might leave you completely baffled. Karissa's habit of scream praying, which basically entails praying while screaming at the top of her lungs. Here's a graphical example.
Wherever you are, all I need you to shout is "let fire."
It's one of the many cases Karissa has chosen religion over medical intervention for her children. In one particular Instagram post, Karissa shared an unsettling experience with her daughter, Anthem. Anthem was sick. She had a fever and was vomiting. But instead of taking her to a hospital for a proper medical evaluation, Karissa did the unthinkable. She started scream praising along with her children. Yesterday, Anthem started puking everywhere, all over me, all afternoon. She got a small fever and was lethargic. I immediately was filled with fear, debilitating fear. Instead of sitting in my fear, I decided to start praying and praising with all of my children. We spent 2+ hours screaming praise, and Anthem was immediately healed. While we sang, she danced, played, ate, and drank, and all of my children were screaming praises. It was life-giving. Fear left. And she ended this story with some powerful statements. This is how we overcome. This is victory. God is faithful, and sometimes a simple prayer isn't enough. While some religious people who share similar beliefs with her might agree, there's something about this situation that seems very problematic. Karissa never indicated that there was a follow-up medical check. And frankly, no one would expect that from a mother who kept records of the multiple times her children's broken bones were miraculously healed. Karissa's behavior towards healthcare, especially for her children, is truly concerning. Sicknesses are our body's way of telling the world that there's a problem within that needs to be checked. But Karissa, as a mother, keeps ignoring these signs for her kids. If they suffered from serious fractures and had not visited the doctor who would run proper scans and prescribe proper medication, it could become life-threatening one day. Anthem's battle with her health is a big example of this. Apart from this incident where Karissa used scream praying to cure Anthem's fever, there was another case where she was completely negligent as a mother. This is the case where Anthem had a urinary tract infection, UTI.
She one day woke up with a crick in her neck, and I thought nothing of it. The next day, her entire body shut down. She became limp. She couldn't hold her head up. She couldn't smile. Out of nowhere, no signs other than she kind of wouldn't drink or eat much, although she was 11 months old.
Karissa made a video explaining that Anthem, when she was 11 months old, ended up in the ICU twice from an untreated UTI that went septic.
From a silent UTI. She pretty much died in my arms on day 2. It was the most horrific thing I've ever been through.
The first explanation came in a 45-minute long live stream, where she detailed every aspect of Anthem's illness. A Redditor also provided a transcript of this live stream. And before we head down this road, bear in mind that what you're about to uncover is completely heartbreaking. So the story began on a Friday night before a basketball game. Karissa noted that 11-month-old Anthem's head was slouched over when she was bathing her that night. According to Karissa's own description in a subsequent video, Anthem had a 99-degree fever and wasn't eating much.
Friday night, she had a 99-degree fever. She was still eating.
Now, a sensible mother would try to break the fever or would at least be a bit concerned to understand what was happening to their baby. But what did Karissa do? She waved it off without a second thought. Her next words in regards to this situation will hit like a bullet wound.
When your child has a low-grade fever, you don't just rush them to the ER. You just let them rest and let whatever virus that they have.
Can you imagine that? Karissa Collins basically said she would give room to whatever virus or sickness that was striking her kid. The manner in which she made such a statement is truly annoying and insensitive. This was her child we're talking about, not some random lab rat. Yet Karissa didn't move a muscle until the next morning, the day for her son's basketball game. At this time, she claimed that Anthem was a burst of energy. She was laughing and playing as if the 99-degree fever never happened the night before.
So we didn't think that much of it. Saturday morning, she woke up. She didn't have a fever. She was standing, playing, acting.
But here's where things get a little more irritating. Karissa noticed another warning sign with Anthem on the way to the basketball match. The 11-month-old baby suddenly lost complete control of her muscles, couldn't hold her head up, wouldn't lift her legs, her face drooped with no expressions.
My son's basketball game on Saturday, and my mom came, and it was like as soon as we pulled up to the basketball game, she seemed like she struggled holding her head up. Never seen that in a child, never heard of that. And so I was a little concerned, but at 11 months old,
Now, any normal parent would have immediately rushed the child to the hospital. But Karissa, she didn't think anything of it. In fact, she went for lunch. That's right. In the 45-minute live stream she recorded the way before this semi-sugar-coated YouTube video, Karissa had told her audience that they went for lunch after noticing her daughter's weird behavior. The family sat for the game, and as soon as it was over, Karissa claimed that she tried to feed her some juice. Visiting the hospital had still not crossed her mind at this point.
As soon as the game was over, I took her to get some juice to see if she would drink more. And
it was only when Anthem refused to drink that Karissa finally took her to the hospital. And here's where the situation started to get messy.
Fever. You don't just rush them to the ER. You just let them rest and let whatever virus that they have run its course. So we didn't think that much of it. Saturday morning, she woke up. She didn't have a fever. She was standing, playing, acting normal. We went to my son's basketball game on Saturday, and my mom came, and it was like as soon as we pulled up to the basketball game, she seemed like she struggled holding her head up. Never seen that in a child, never heard of that. And so I was a little concerned, but at 11 months old, they're a little shaky. She had learned how to walk at 10 months old, so she was normally very active. She just wanted me to hold her, and she did struggle to smile at my mom. It's like she lost the function of her face, and so As soon as the game was over, I took her to get some juice to see if she would drink more. And she wasn't drinking, so I took her straight to urgent care. Urgent care looked at her and said she needs to go to Cook's. So I took her straight to Cook's. And I'm telling you, like, she was declining rapidly.
Anthem fought for her life at the hospital while Karissa still held on to prayer. But you see, the problem with Karissa and religion is that she always takes things to extremes. Instead of quietly praying for the best, she devolved into one of her usual courses of action, scream praying. And this time in the ICU where other sick babies were kept. Karissa laid hands on Anthem and screamed prayers over her head. She said it was the boldest thing she had ever done. Karissa's religious attitude really didn't make her Mother of the Year. Every decision she made during this point of her daughter's battle between life and death was completely unreasonable. Praying loudly in the ICU had to be the most insensitive. The hospital isn't a place of worship. People heal there. The quiet environment is very important for recovery, especially in places like the NICU where babies are kept. But Karissa was too blinded by her beliefs to see how harmful her behavior was. At a point, she even began to think that God might have wanted Anthem as a sacrifice, just like Abraham and his son Isaac in the Bible. In such a distressing situation, Karissa thought of a sermon on divine sacrifice, when her 11-month-old daughter was busy fighting for a chance to stay alive. This behavior calls into question what kind of a mother Karissa was. Was she raising an army just to spread her own beliefs on faith, or were her children simply for views? Because for Karissa to willingly give up on her child, it's hard to believe that she truly valued their lives. Sure, Karissa had accepted all possible outcomes somewhere in her spirit, but this was not keeping the family stronger, like she urged the kids to pray for baby Anthem. Her eldest son Andre was still hopeful. He posted a video concerning his sister's case, and mind you, it's truly heartbreaking to watch.
Because it's like with my baby sister in the hospital. I couldn't see that she was getting better. She looked the same. But God was working inside of her. God was healing her body.
You can see how conflicted he was. He sounded like he was trying to convince himself with the words he was speaking.
So like if God told me that my sister's gonna be okay, but her face is turning purple and she blacked out, she's gonna be okay. That's because that's what God said. And you have to have faith and stand on his word.
Andre's words are awe-inspiring, but you can hear the undertone of worry and confusion in his voice. Anthem's situation was devastating for anyone, and this is only a glimpse of what could happen if the family doesn't prioritize adequate medical care. Karissa's attitude with religion and healthcare was terrible. Her status as a parent is all the more scary, because we're talking about human lives here, 11 human lives. Now you might be wondering, where is her husband Mandre in the Collins story? Well, at the time of Anthem's distressing medical crisis, Mandre was coaching a volleyball game, and Karissa had only told her mother to inform him about the situation after the game. Just imagine her priorities. Other than his late appearance at the hospital, Mandre was well received, maybe because he was more level-headed than his wife. But is he, though? Putting Anthem's hospital situation to the side, where does he stand in the family's recurring controversies? From an overall point of view, Mandre Collins is the head of the house and also the reason behind 11 children with his name and DNA on the internet. You'd think that he has a voice when it comes to how his wife and kids are being perceived online. But where is he? What does he do whenever Karissa takes the spotlight? Well, the simple answer is nothing. Mandre's always there, but he doesn't do anything. He's silent, like a background character. He partakes in the cute family videos, and he does well in blending his love for sports with his spiritual life.
Said, man, before I know it, that selfish mentality, my identity in Christ was I ain't gonna say transferred. It had turned into an identity of a selfish, glory-seeking basketball player.
However, on the Collins family page, he doesn't seem much of an active player. While we can't judge his parenting skills for sure, it does seem like Mandre is a capable father since he can take care of 11 children. One shortcoming is how he doesn't remember all their birthdays.
What is Anderson's birthday?
7 is July
And another one, or the biggest one, is the fact that he keeps enabling this pregnancy addiction. The decision to raise an army of kids wasn't Karissa's alone. Mandre also played a role in their family. Not to mention even the fact that he doesn't check his wife's attitude is a problem on its own. Mandre sits on the sidelines while Karissa scream praise her children from illnesses. He looks at the frame of Karissa's miracle list and he says nothing of it. This quiet attitude, along with Karissa's overbearing behavior, really creates a recipe for disaster for their 11 children. It makes you wonder what they believe is best for the kids. Karissa has proven time and time again that the hospital was never her go-to place in times of health crisis. Even after Anthem recovered from the UTI situation, she wholeheartedly acknowledged God's intervention in the case. While I appreciate the hard work of the doctors, they still don't know why it happened or how to help her. It was literally only God that got her through. He gets all the glory. It's quite obvious where her mind is in this whole situation. It got to a point that onlookers who had to watch from the sidelines finally decided to take action. Karissa was reported to Child Protective Services, CPS, up to 4 times. For some reason, Karissa managed to wiggle herself out of this situation. She even shared the update on her Instagram page, calling the worried people who had called Child Protective Services on her trolls. Karissa wrote, "Go ahead and call CPS. They've cleared us same day 4 times. We have nothing to hide. We love God and we love our children. We even love you. We know who God created us to be and we'll continue walking in it." Karissa always did this. She would come on the internet to talk about trolls and how her family didn't care about what they said. Sadly, what she fails to understand each time is why people are always worried about her own children. No one would contact Child Protective Services for no good reason. Karissa's religious attitude and her intolerance for medical care made internet users worried. That's why she had to deal with this kind of issue not once, but 4 times. It's truly mind-blowing how she's remained active on the internet till now. And guess what? Her reign of terror didn't end with the Anthem situation or her multiple CPS escapes. Because other than her disregard for basic health care, Karissa also doesn't value her children's education. You heard that right. Karissa and Mandre Collins are homeschooling their 11 kids.
What you looking for? We got what you looking for. What you looking for? We got what you looking for.
In order to afford the family size they're breeding, they simply trust God while living a cheap and minimalist lifestyle. Karissa provided an outline on the basic options they typically go for while managing 11 kids. At the top of this list is their habit of paying their tithe. They help those in need. They prioritize bulk food over kids' meals at restaurants. They rent movies to watch at home instead of going to the cinema. They eat out once a week on weekends. These are great ways a family like the Collins could manage their size without breaking the bank. And as you would have guessed, homeschooling is part of this system. It's number 9 on the list. Karissa stated, "We don't pick the most expensive homeschool curriculum. There is lots of free options." In an old video posted on YouTube in 2020, Karissa stated that she homeschools her children because God told her to.
And I decided to homeschool, first of all, because God...
Would you take a look at that? Bear in mind that Mandre and Karissa both went to college. They received proper education while growing up. Karissa went to high school and even graduated from Barclay College with a degree in business management and Bible knowledge and ministry. And Mandre also finished high school and college. He bagged a degree in business administration from Sterling College, Kansas. Both of them received formal education. But now that it's time for their kids to learn and be better than their parents, they're not taking this similar course of action. It's like they intentionally want their kids to be dumb for the rest of their lives. In that same YouTube video, Karissa explained that her 2 oldest kids went to preschool and kindergarten for 2 years.
God told me to. My kids went to public school for 2 years, and then Andrew did. They went to kindergarten, preschool.
But here's the part she didn't really like. According to Karissa, her children changed because of the friends they made at school.
The kids they hung out with changed them. They came home like playing zombies in kindergarten. They don't know what zombies are. All their friends watched Walking Dead. And that was just too much for me because we don't expose our kids to that, especially at...
Karissa explained that her children's friends in preschool watched Walking Dead. Does this sound believable? That majority of kids under 10 years old watched the show and began to influence her kids? They could have been playing for all she knew. Kids do that. You don't see them playing tag and say, "Oh, they watched a slasher movie, they're bad kids." Anyway, moving on, Karissa stated that apart from the fact that her children were acting like zombies, they were also getting bullied and their language changed.
They were also getting bullied and just their language changed.
It's quite hard to believe someone like her who interprets the Bible her own way. For all we know, these children were playing a game. They could have been playing and mumbling since they were still in kindergarten. And if we do believe for a second that her kids had been bullied and were learning adulterated habits from school, Karissa could have easily arranged a meeting with the teachers or enrolled them in another school. But a complete withdrawal from public education was what she chose. She even attested that she loved the teachers and the schools around her neighborhood.
And while I love their teachers and the schools across the street...
Does this sound like something a mother would say if she really believed her kids were in the wrong environment? So it was obvious that Karissa was just making excuses. This fact became evidently clear with this next reason.
And so that was one thing. The other thing was they would go to school in the morning and then come home at night, eat dinner, and go to bed. And I felt like I did.
There you have it. Karissa simply wanted her kids under her radar. This was the main reason why homeschooling was her best choice. Other explanations given in the video were basically areas of normal schooling that she didn't agree with. For instance, the fact that teachers don't pray or talk about God.
And then, the obvious other things that I personally believe that there's indoctrinated views in the schools that the teachers don't have any say in. They're not allowed to pray. They're not allowed to talk about God.
And she also claimed that a lot of children in schools have gender issues that she didn't want her kids to be part of.
A lot of kids have gender issues, identity issues, and they're overly sexualized in school, and I want them to learn about that.
Turns out Karissa's reactions are formed on nothing but generalizations. Fine, these might be issues that actually go on in schools, but her sense of fear and panic is what makes it problematic in this context. Karissa talked as if her children would face gender-based issues every day at school. This paranoid behavior is certainly a bad trait for a mom to have. This is because she's creating this weird notion that it's her and her children against the world, and it's a damaging mindset for the kids. Also, on the issue of teachers not praying and talking about God, Karissa forgot that schools, like other businesses, are a public setting. Diversity exists. People with different cultural and religious backgrounds exist. It's impossible to practice one religion at the expense of another. And if the lack of theological teachings was truly a problem, she could easily enroll the kids in a Christian school where the chances of students watching The Walking Dead and acting like zombies are likely to be low. And if not that, then public schools would have been okay since the fees are considerably lower than that of private schools. Karissa could have easily settled for any other option if she wanted the best for her kids. Exposure through social interactions is really necessary to build confidence in kids, a confidence that can one day help them build their businesses like their father. Like this study from the University of Minnesota states, social interaction provides the means via which we gradually become able to see ourselves through the eyes of others, and how we learn and who we are and how we fit into the world around us. Children need to see the world and meet people if they're ever going to grow psychologically. But now we have a mother of 11 restricting all her kids from experiencing such growth. Karissa Collins' reasons for pulling her children out of public schools were not serious issues. She was just a paranoid and overzealous mother who wanted complete control over her children. Unfortunately, she has achieved this selfish goal now. All her children are being homeschooled, away from the realities of the world. And when you're away from the outside world, problems are bound to arise. Now, specifically speaking, when you're managing 11 kids as a mother and your husband works as a coach outside the house, where's the proper time to teach these kids the right curriculum?
So today, I'm wearing a nice dark shade of exhaustion under my eyes. Hope you like it.
And the worst part is these kids are in different grades and classes by normal school standards. Teaching all of them from grade 1 to 10 is not one man's job. That's why schools exist. People in the comments shared similar concerns. Someone wrote, "Why not just send them to Christian schools that do follow your beliefs?" And another commenter claimed, "We all went to public schools, turned out just fine, and it didn't shake our faith in God." These were not bad comments. They only reflected that there were different options that Mandre and Karissa could have gone for instead of basic homeschooling. But sadly, Karissa couldn't care less. She even made TikTok content out of the situation, calling her children awkward and unsocialized.
I homeschool, so of course my kids are awkward and unsocialized.
This means that they cannot act like normal kids in public. Do you know how sad that is? When other kids are playing, they could be that one kid in the corner that no one wants to play with. This is what Karissa Collins was making content out of. To her, it was fun, but in reality, it's sad and depressing. Her children are losing out on making friends and building their own personalities. It's quite sad how Karissa was endangering the future of her kids for TikTok content. For her, homeschooling was the best. But from the way we've seen her tackle parenting, it's safe to assume that her heart isn't really in the right place with these kids. Apart from making content about homeschooling, she also posts ads for agencies on curriculums that people can buy through her. Karissa Collins is truly numb to the needs of her kids. Although they smile on camera, internet users can still catch the upsetting looks on some of these kids' faces. Here's a promising and recent example. In this video where Karissa announced her pregnancy for the 12th child, the one she recently miscarried, there were mixed reactions from her kids.
12 children, you guys. Yay! Yay! Mommy's pregnant! Yay! You're pregnant! Mom, I knew it! Mom, you're pregnant! No, Mom, no! Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait, no! I don't know what I'm gonna have, but yeah.
The younger kids are doing what they're supposed to, cheering, clapping, playing their role. But if you look at the older children in the background, you can see the exact moment their souls leave their bodies.
No, Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait, no! I don't know what I'm gonna have, but yes, I'm pregnant. Mom! She's pregnant! Give me it. No way! You're pregnant! Yes, I needed to get it out.
They were too stunned to speak, and the eldest daughter, Anissa,
You said 12 children. You guys. Yay! Yay! Mommy's pregnant! Yay! You're pregnant! Mom, I knew it! Mom, you're pregnant! No, Mom, no! Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait!
you can see how much she tried to keep her true emotions at bay. Her mouth hanging wide, completely in shock and disbelief etched all over her face. You can tell that her instant reaction was not pure joy. That feeling had been shared multiple times over, but this time around it was different. She looked as if she was thinking about her life in that future. The new babysitting hours, her new priority in addition to her other siblings. She saw something in that announcement that her younger innocent siblings didn't see.
I'm gonna have that. Yes, I'm pregnant. Mom! She's pregnant! Give me it. No way! You're pregnant!
Yes, I needed to get
I
it
don't know.
out.
I saw you so.
I'm not joking.
You're pregnant.
I thought I
You can tell
was.
Dad. You can tell Dad.
Yeah,
You're pregnant!
Look at the way her smile dropped. It was so obvious that Karissa's bombshell had hit a sore spot. And it wasn't just Anissa, even Karissa's third oldest child and second daughter, Aniston, wasn't jumping for joy at the news.
Hear me, I said 12 children.
You said 12 children. You guys. Yay! Yay! Mommy's pregnant! Yay! You're pregnant! Mom, I knew it! Mom, you're pregnant! No, Mom, no! Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait, no!
I don't know what I'm gonna have, but yes.
Their expressions and silent communication was louder than their little siblings' cheers in front, because baby number 12 was nothing to be happy about. It was more work and more responsibilities. Anissa, still being mindful of the camera, tried to maintain a cool expression. Unfortunately, there are just some things you can't hide for too long. A disappointed look for an incoming 11th sibling is one of them, so she walked away entirely.
You're on your period!
I thought I was. I thought I was. I'm not joking. I thought I was.
You can tell Dad. You can tell Dad.
Yeah,
You're pregnant!
These weren't the reactions of the children excited about a new sibling. These were the reactions of the children who knew their lives as average kids were totally cooked. If they thought they'd seen enough before, this new announcement was a wake-up call to them. Their mother truly had no breaks in this game of procreation, and as the video attracted more than 10 million views and over 300,000 likes. With this statistical value, you'd think that the comments would be filled with congratulatory notes. But that was not the case. TikTok users had immediately caught on to the children's reaction and they were not happy. Oldest daughter's face says it all. Poor girl. The two oldest looked so hurt. And even this particular user wrote a very striking comment that over 40,000 people agreed with. The older kids looked devastated, probably sick of watching all those kids. It does make sense. Karissa's children's reactions to that pregnancy announcement could have been indicators that the older ones were the ones raising the kids themselves. These grown children could have been the ones changing diapers, babysitting, and sacrificing their teenage years to be third and fourth parents. Unfortunately, Karissa Collins and her husband believed they had built a solid foundation around their family and their cheerful content. However, little signs like this only showcase some imperfections that had been hiding in plain sight. And the sad thing is, you can't help feel sorry for the kids. Their family's not the average kind you see on social media. And with them not interacting with the outside world, they could remain blissfully unaware that their family's problematic. Karissa's pregnancy addiction is one problem on its own, and her doctrine is another. From all that we've discussed so far, it'll interest you to know that we've only scratched the surface. Now prepare yourself to receive the shock of a lifetime as we explore the real religious nature of Karissa. So why does Karissa keep having children? What drives someone to have 11 kids and counting, especially when it's clearly taking a toll on the existing kids? The answer is Karissa believes that sterilization and abortion is not approved according to the Bible.
Find anywhere in the Bible that gives us permission to choose to prevent, sterilize, or abort.
That's right, Karissa believes that any form of contraception, birth control pills, condoms, vasectomy, and even pullouts is a sin against God.
I went on birth control knowing that, but I was like, I'm not going to prevent future children, you know, and the vasectomy is permanent. Well, every single day for a week that I put that pill in my mouth, I knew, like the Bible says, anything not done in faith is sin. And so I knew I was...
It's a very tough following, and Karissa held on to it like gospel.
I told my husband, this was the hardest thing I've done so far in our marriage, I really believe, that I've had to do. I said, I'm giving you over to a vasectomy because I can't partake in sin. So I said, I will not pull out. I will not do anything that is going to prevent God from giving.
But here's where you see manipulation blending with religious beliefs. Karissa claimed she cannot take in sin by using contraceptives, and if Mandre were to get a vasectomy, she wouldn't say anything, even though she believed it was sinful.
I said, I can't partake, but I also can't force you. And so I said, you can get a vasectomy, but you will stand before the Lord one day and you will account for what you've done.
Wow. This reasoning is extremely manipulative, and it could point at a possible reason why Mandre had allowed his family to grow into such an extended unit. Was Karissa constantly guilt-tripping him to make more babies? Is there a form of religious manipulation taking root in the Collins family, especially around the children? Seeing Karissa's attitude to what she believes is the gospel truth makes you wonder the 101 things that might be going on in that family. Karissa's platform is built around her ministry of procreation. She's not just living her beliefs privately, she's actively trying to recruit other women into this lifestyle. Her mission statement is to encourage women to trust God with your womb.
I'm not all about a following. I just am simply here to share the message that God has given me and the ministry that I have, which is just encouraging women that you can trust God with your womb, that you can rely on Him to give you His blessings in children.
And she urges families to accept however many kids God decides to give them.
And so we encourage women and families, not just women, but families, to trust God with however many children He wants to.
This message has been a recurring pattern in Karissa's story. She voices it in her captions. Yes, your body was made for this. No, it's not dangerous to trust God, and no, you'll never regret it. And it's pinned on her Instagram highlights. It's everywhere. Karissa spreads sermons about pro-life, pro-pregnancy, and anti-abortion. She's even involved AI in her ministry. ChatGPT provided answers ranging from encouraging contraceptives to encouraging abortion. For Karissa, these were the tools of the devil. And there you have it. Evidence birth control isn't from God, but is a weapon from the enemy. He can't create life, so he'll do anything to stop it. Karissa is always trying hard to spread her doctrine. She even once implied that people talk down on her having multiple children because they can't relate.
I understand that people cannot imagine having 11 children, and it blows their mind, and so they have to find something to say about it.
This mission meant everything to her, seeing how she was using AI and underhanded shade to talk to her followers. Now let's consider a very serious question. Where does this belief come from? Because letting God use your womb to procreate till eternity is not in the Bible. The Bible only mentions the womb when God is referenced to have bestowed a divine appointment or favor on people long before they were born. We see it in the book of Jeremiah. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I anointed you as a prophet to the nations. This same applies to this part of the book Isaiah, where it's stated that God had bestowed favor on the appointed one right from the womb. Listen to me, you islands. Hear this, you distant nations. Before I was born, the Lord called me. From my mother's womb, He has spoken my name. These are the ways the womb's been referenced in the Bible. There's no passage anywhere that talks about God telling women procreate simply because he was in charge of their wombs. So where does Karissa's theology stem from? The main scripture that people like Karissa point at, two scriptures in Genesis. First is Genesis 1 verse 28, which essentially instructs to be fruitful and multiply. Karissa has used this passage to further her ministry on her TikTok page, so it serves as justification for her pregnancy addiction.
Some things don't work and that's the way love goes. I get it, 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 I get it.
And now this brings us to the second most popular scripture in Genesis, the one that might be the foundation of her anti-birth control campaign. It's the story of Onan. Here's a quick version. Onan's brother died before having children. According to the law at that time, Onan was supposed to sleep with his brother's widow so the family line could continue. But when Onan slept with her, he purposely pulled out and spilled his seeds so he wouldn't get her pregnant. God saw this as evil and killed him. So Judah told Onan, "Go and sleep with your brother's widow. It's the duty of a brother-in-law to keep your brother's line alive." But Onan knew that the child wouldn't be his. So whenever he slept with his brother's widow, he spilled his semen on the ground so he wouldn't produce a child for his brother. God was much offended by what he did and also took his life. This is the only part of the Bible that talks about pulling out and the possible punishment for it in the Old Testament. Now, Karissa must have taken this passage and run with it, claiming it proves that any form of contraception is sinful. But if you read the passage in context, it's pretty clear God wasn't mad about contraception, he was mad about the disobedience. Onan was legally and religiously obligated to give his brother an heir, and he refused. That's what got him killed, not the act of pulling out itself.
And it's not because he didn't finish in her and because he finished outside of her. It was because he didn't complete the task that he was committed.
There is no part of the Bible that explicitly states that contraception is a sin. The entire argument against birth control is based on interpretation, and Karissa bases her arguments on this logic. Here's an example. If we believe life comes from God, why would we partner to prevent it? And if life comes from God, why would God actively show man how to prevent and kill it? She bases her arguments on this kind of premise. Bible scriptures are rarely cited. Sometimes she even falls back to research to push her pregnancy campaign. So I did some research. I'm no expert here, but this is what I found. I've had my own terrible experiences and side effects with birth control, only being on them for 6 months. You have a 0.0002% chance of dying from childbirth, but a 0.00052% chance of dying from birth control. 31% of women have negative side effects from birth control, and 52% say they were worse than expected. These are the ways that Karissa has tried to push her ministry. But contraceptives are used for various other reasons. According to the World Health Organization, contraceptives can help reduce HIV transmissions from mothers to newborns. It can be used to prevent unintended pregnancies, and in doing so, maternal health could be maintained and the number of pregnancy-related deaths could be reduced. Contraceptives still serve life-saving purposes, but Karissa's main focus remains on bringing children into the world. She views these kids as trophies, not people who would grow up with distorted social and religious beliefs as a result of her parenting. In her words, children are eternal and valuable.
I simply believe that we are to live lives of faith and that children are eternal and they're the only eternal thing that we have with us on this earth, and that they have value, lots of value, the most valuable thing we can have or we can control.
Considering how she uses her kids to build her social media accounts, perhaps this is where the values are being extorted. The more you think about it, the more you feel sorry for the kids. Karissa's doctrines are kind of messed up. She views things of the world as either ordained by God or tools of the devil. We saw the way she handled her children's health earlier. And if you thought scream praying was the only area where she let religion cloud her sense of judgment, then this new disclosure will blow your mind. Karissa's not only against contraceptives, she also preaches against vaccination. You heard that right, Karissa doesn't vaccinate her kids. Vaccines protect children against serious diseases like measles, polio, and tetanus, yet Karissa refuses to take her children to the hospital for this treatment, and she proudly shares this piece of info on her social media platforms. Check out the post she once made on her Instagram story. "I vaxxed my older kids, they were always sick, allergies, asthma, viruses, ear infections. Now as adults, they all have autoimmune diseases. I began researching about 10 years ago. I stopped vax when I learned the truth of what's in them. My vaxxed son got polio. Yes, you read that right. My younger children are never sick. I mean never. My 5-year-old has never once been sick except for a tiny cold. He's never been on antibiotics. Zero vax." Anti-vaccination is one of Karissa's agenda. She often calls it poison. Once she even posted on her Instagram that God broke her ribs to stop her from poisoning her children. Speaking of poison, one day God broke my rib after my 7th baby was born, and as I was praying for healing, he told me to stop poisoning my children. I agreed to never do it again and was immediately healed, and my kids have never been healthier. Karissa pushed this topic hard on social media, and internet users were not pleased. Ew, she's just awful. Her poor babies have been in and out of the ER for years, and she wants to act like modern medicine and vaccines are the boogeyman. She's a confetti-ass clown. She is so mentally ill. And even this one questioned her faith as an evangelist. So you worship a God who you believe broke your effing rib. The internet was in an uproar. And fortunately, Instagram caught wind of it and her account was shadow banned. But this hasn't stopped her from spreading her ministry. In fact, Karissa continued to preach her gospel to many audiences, including poor people. In a long caption, she essentially argued that poor people have no excuse to not have children. This is what she wrote. People always say you should only have children if you can afford them. Absolutely not. If that was true, I wouldn't have any children. Karissa wrote with the conviction of a preacher on a pulpit. The kind of preacher who says, "Who told you you can't do it? Just have faith and you can buy that private jet." That's exactly how she sounds writing all these captions. It's strung like a sales pitch, but it's wholly problematic. Through this text, Karissa is telling poor people that they don't have to do any proper planning before having kids. Have the kids first, and provision and care would come naturally. This is the message she's sending across, and if someone were to believe her words, they would be entering a world of trouble. Karissa's reasoning on care and provision is another weird aspect of this controversial take. She says, also, what exactly does afford mean? Breastfeeding is free. Onesies are 99 cents at the thrift store. Diapers are your biggest expense. And if you can upgrade your phone and cable, you can add in some diapers. The real question is how many of your needs are actually needs. In America, we're all living in abundance. That last statement, in America, we're all living in abundance, is completely idealistic. This is coming from someone who goes for the cheapest alternative to save cost and afford her family. And here she is, speaking about abundance, throwing the word as if she prints money at home. Her words are tone deaf, but at the same time, they could inspire someone like her. Someone who wants to procreate without adequate financial and material resources. Just look at this other post she raised. You don't have to be a millionaire to trust God with your family size. There is a misconception that we are millionaires. We recently moved into our dream home on land, but that doesn't mean we've always been able to afford it. You only see the now, but you can't see the struggle. You can't see the paycheck to paycheck years we've invested as God grew our family. You can't see the hardships and struggles along the way. We're 41 now and seeing all of God's promises coming true. Her words are venom masked as honey. Advocating for childbearing and poverty is not faith. It's a systematic endorsement of child neglect, because poor parents will eventually fail in providing for their children. She's telling poor people that it's okay to have more than 10 children. She's telling them to start now and God will provide. But what'll happen if that supernatural help doesn't come? Will Karissa take responsibility for them? And the truly infuriating part, she frames this as a religious issue that can be solved by having faith in God. She's telling poor people that if they're truly faithful, God will provide. And if God doesn't provide, well, that must mean you didn't have enough faith. In the long run, this kind of advocacy puts the blame on the struggling parents while absolving Karissa of any responsibility for giving harmful advice. What Karissa is conveniently leaving out is the fact that she herself isn't struggling financially compared to other poor-stricken families out there. She and Mandre have social media income. Their TikTok account, which should be their primary source of social media income, could earn them between $400 to $1,000 per 1 million views. From what we've discussed earlier, we've seen that their videos amass millions of views. If Karissa earns a minimum of $400 per 1 million views, that means a video like this one with 40 million views can fetch her a whopping $16,000 minimum. Now remember, this is all speculative and might not be the real figure, but it does offer a glimpse of what Karissa could be earning from posting content online. Poor people don't have that privilege. She claims that they're not millionaires, but her family owns a house.
7 months ago, my husband bought this land, and for 5 months, we've been building and designing this home for our children. Our children knew we were moving because our house has been for sale, but it hasn't sold yet, so they had no idea that we had already picked out and built a house.
Karissa told her audience that she's not that rich, yet they drive a huge van. Not to mention she runs a boutique called Rooted in Christ Boutique, while Mandre works in auto finance and owns a basketball company. Whether it's the right figure or not, it's obvious that the Collins family has more money than the average family. They own a house and drive a huge van. Most average families can't afford this, yet Karissa always watered down her blessings to make it seem like she could relate to other families out there. Most poor families don't have access to those opportunities. The point here is not that poor people should be denied the experience of having children. It's Karissa's way of advocating that poverty shouldn't be an excuse for poor families to give birth as excessively as she's doing. She's encouraging a deep, blind dive into a family unit without proper planning. Also remember that she's not just telling people to have 1 or 2 kids, she's preaching that they should have as many children as physically possible. This means that you can go over and above until menopause as long as you're still alive. It's absurd. What's even more crazy is how she contradicts herself with this teaching. Karissa's claims that poor people should have kids even if they can't afford them is harmful advice. Even the Bible clearly states that the Lord repays those who help the poor in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17. Karissa didn't preach a way out of poverty through her doctrine for the poor. She only enticed the minds of unassuming parents, making them believe they could invest blindly into an uncertain future full of kids. In the same book of Proverbs, there are extensive talks about planning and wisdom. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." This verse completely changes everything Karissa has been advocating. Hasty and poor planning will lead to poverty. If you're poor and can't even afford to cater to your own needs, maybe having children and subjecting them to a life of poverty is something to think about. The Bible clearly warns against acts that are not built on foundations of wisdom, yet Karissa Collins always carried her ministry as if it were total gospel. Her selfish belief on pregnancy only points to one fact: Karissa has a breeding addiction. There are multiple people out there with this kind of breeding addiction. Families like the Rodriguez family of 13 children, the Duggar family of 19, and even the more recent Jenkins family of 7 who live in a single apartment.
Welcome back, y'all. Come spend a wholesome night with the resilient Jenkins. We started off with our typical nighttime routine of making sure everything gets cleaned up. Unfortunately, the belt keeps going out on our vacuum, so we just go ahead and use the hose.
These families have a lot of kids. Karissa, for one, fits into a large faction that are religious about it. These are the Quiverful families. Now, Quiverful isn't technically a religion, it's a philosophy within Christianity. The name comes from Psalm 127, verses 4 through 5, which reads, "Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court." The basic premise is this: Christians should have as many children as physically possible and raise them to be warriors for Christ. The goal isn't just about having a large family, it's about building an army.
So the Quiverful movement believes that having children in large numbers or quantities is a way of control and weaponry, with the idea that they can birth more conservative Christians in a world that doesn't have enough.
They frame it as freedom, as empowerment, as mothers taking control of their families through this wide sense of togetherness. In fact, they're not just creating big families, they're starting tribes.
One of the ways that Quiverful ideology is so attractive is that it basically promises women that they're going to create this tribe of people that they are bonded to for the rest of their lives. And not only are you going to have that attachment to them as the mother, but your children are going to be bonded to each other. And it's going to be this beautiful, glorious thing. And then as your children get married and have children, they're just going to...
But here's the thing about this movement, it's not as rosy as it sounds. They're testimonies from adults who grew up in Quiverful families. And mind you, they're not sweet.
I was homeschooled in a Quiverful evangelical fundamentalist setting, K through 12, my entire life. And my mother was a somewhat well-known mommy blogger in the mid-2000s through the early 20s.
For example, this TikToker explained that Quiverful families always preach that raising a big family is cheap. And for their argument to hold water, they encourage families to drop one of two things. First is well child visits, which involves taking your children for regular healthcare checkups.
They always advocate for dropping one of two things. Number one is well child visits. It is a very common rhetoric within mega families that well child visits are a scam invented by doctors to rip you off.
Just like Karissa's paranoia with hospitals and vaccines, this rhetoric basically preaches that health facilities are not the best places for parents to take their kids. By advocating for this kind of teaching, the Quiverful movement essentially calls for limited healthcare visits for children. That means little to no vaccination or dental visits.
Yes, this does go extremely hand in hand with anti-vaxxing. How could you have guessed? This also stretches to apply to 6-month dental visits. They think you need to go like once every couple of years.
It's very typical for a mega family to believe these things. Why? Because they'd be able to save money and appear knowledgeable to the public. Like Karissa, they can boast that they haven't fully vaccinated their children in years and they never fell sick. And if there are families that are gullible enough to believe them, they might be enticed to start their own mega family. Moving on, medical expenses aren't the only thing Quiverful families cut out of their budget. They also prefer homeschooling. This brings us to this TikToker's second point.
The second thing they always say that is fine and good even to cut to make children cheaper is extracurriculars. Back that one up with the rhetoric that your children should be each other's best friends. Who needs outside friends when you...
Can you see how similar in thinking these principles apply to Karissa Collins' decisions? These are essentially patterns that the Quiverful movement endorse. It's cult-like, and yet Karissa makes it seem like there's a divine underlining attached somewhere. However, beyond this very problematic cost-cutting belief system, the Quiverful movement still has many downsides. One of them is the fact that the older children are parentified at a young age. This essentially translates to them being parents to their younger siblings. These grown kids would have no choice but to share the responsibility of taking care of the much younger ones. One mom and one dad can't handle 11 children, especially if they're not attending proper schools and are at home all the time. For example, this TikToker named Brittany, who grew up with 14 siblings, shared her side of the story.
I'm the eldest daughter of 15 kids. Hi, I'm Brittany, and I have 14 siblings. I have one older brother, he's 31, I'm 30, and our youngest sibling.
Brittany's experience growing up in a large household was far from interesting. And do you know why? Because she was parentified at a young age. Her orientation as a child was built on the need to look out for her younger siblings.
I was parentified at a very young age, and I believe that it is impossible to have this many children and not parentified.
Children aren't meant to share the responsibilities of taking care of a family with their parents. Such a dynamic is always harmful to the kids because it not only steals their childhood, but also leaves them emotionally regretful, and they'll always remember that in the future. This was exactly what happened in Brittany's case.
Because I was parentified, I did not really get much of a childhood. I missed out on a lot of normal childhood.
At the time, Brittany had realized that her life at home was making her miss out on experiences with friends that could come once in a lifetime.
I had to miss so many experiences that my friends got to take part in. For example, in the 4th grade, if you read 100 books for the year, you got to attend like a water park day at the end of the year. I had to miss my water park day in order to babysit my younger siblings so that my parents could go.
You don't remain a child forever. These are your best years to get creative, have fun, make mistakes, learn from them, build relationships, and understand complexities outside the home. These are part of the learning experiences for children at that age. But Brittany unfortunately didn't enjoy such privileges. And that was not the only harsh reality she had to face. Apart from taking care of her siblings, Brittany claimed that she never enjoyed privacy at home.
I did not have any personal space or privacy growing up. I never had my own room. I always shared a room with multiple siblings, and I often shared a bed with my younger siblings. Instead of just going to bed at night like a normal kid, I was putting toddlers and babies to sleep.
Can you imagine growing up in that kind of environment? Do you know what it does to a person? Mind you, Brittany's mom was still in the picture. She still had her own share of responsibilities. But at the end of the day, she's only one human who can handle so many kids single-handedly.
Don't get me wrong, my mother stayed home with us, and she did a lot. She ran a very tight ship. However, it was quite literally impossible to take care of that many children as one person.
Brittany had to sacrifice so many childhood experiences for her siblings. Extracurricular activities at school, the chance for her parents to attend her events. She would always put the needs and well-beings of her siblings first.
Did not get to participate in many extracurricular activities or have any hobbies growing up. There were too many of us that my parents couldn't attend every single kid's soccer or baseball event. So oftentimes, as an older sibling, I would forego those activities so that my younger siblings could have those experiences.
No child should be made to become too mature for their age, especially when they're not groomed in a very violent environment. This was just a simple family home, and Brittany had no choice but to strive for perfection. To be a model example to her siblings, she had to force herself to become someone close to perfect, and this mentality stuck with her through the years into adulthood.
Something that still affects me to this day, my self-worth is very dependent on how well I perform in society.
This is the future of many children in Quiverful households today. If care is not taken, they would likely find themselves in the future, looking back on what they missed and were forced to accept when they were little and might have to go to therapy. Children taking on parenting roles is no funny business. This TikToker, Chemo, one of 8 siblings, also shared insights similar to Brittany's.
Not just the matching outfit, it's not just the choreographed Bible verses, it's the emotional neglect disguised as tradition. There are kids being raised by their siblings.
Having grown up in a large household, Chemo claimed that there were emotional needs that were left unanswered.
Look, I come from a family of 8. Every single one of us got our own story about what we needed and what we didn't get, what we got but didn't need, about all the affection.
These needs could be the desire to feel loved, safe, and accepted, but parents in this case would be too sidetracked with other priorities to pay attention to these needs. His video basically touched on the emotional neglect he believes his children might be facing in their daily lives.
You cannot tell me I love all my kids equally. One person, one mother cannot emotionally nurture 12 human beings by yourself. You just can't. And regardless of whatever support system you have, at the end of the day, that child wants their...
In his mind's eye, the Collins family was simply performative.
What you're watching online is not inspiring. It's concerning. 12 kids lined up, singing in sync, like a choir of trained soldiers. That's not joy. That's pressure. That's...
Chemo didn't believe their smiles on camera were genuine. For him, this was exploitation, children being used as brands by their parents on social media.
There's nothing wrong with having a lot of kids, but when you're doing it for likes, clicks, and making them a brand, that's a problem. Because it's no longer parenting, it's conditioning. Kids aren't...
Think back to Karissa's oldest children who reacted badly to the news of Karissa's 12th child. This moment clearly hinted at a problem that Chemo and Brittany had talked about: parentification and emotional deregulation. It's clear that Anissa and Anistan were the youngest mothers in the Collins family, and Karissa suddenly making an announcement for another child showed that she was numb to their own feelings and opinions on the entire birthing issue. This is how harmful Karissa was to her own kids.
Hoes becoming moms before they can even be kids. Teenagers raising toddlers while you doing devotion. This is not holy.
From what we've seen in these quiverful stories, there are patterns repeating themselves in the Collins family. Children are raising their siblings while the parents are oblivious to their emotional needs. And Karissa's central ideologies of anti-vaccination and homeschooling were directly tied to behavioral science and culture, and that is the quiverful movement. With this knowledge pack, we now have a bit of understanding as regards Karissa Collins' attitude towards her own family. And from the testimonies we just watched, we also know that the scary part is what lies ahead in the future. If care is not taken, there could be serious consequences for the Collins kids. We've already seen what happened with Anthem. The entire UTI situation perfectly demonstrates how Karissa's ideology directly harms her children. When your ideology prevents you from providing basic medical care to your kids and your faith makes you ignore warning signs, then you're just endangering your children. So what now? What future awaits the Collins family? Throughout the dive into Karissa Collins and her children, one thing remained crystal clear. She doesn't view her children as individual human beings with their own needs, desires, and futures. Her primary goal is to accumulate as many children as physically possible. Then, according to the quiverful doctrine, these children would naturally be trained on religious beliefs while missing out on quality education and adequate medical checkups. Karissa has not been able to convince her audience that she values her children in the right way possible. Merely erasing vaccination from their care package is harmful in itself. What kind of mother does that to her kids? And Karissa has 11 of them. This isn't a small group, this is a tribe of people who would grow up with different mental, emotional, and social orientations. Children are not props for religious beliefs. They aren't numbers to add to the kingdom. They aren't just blessings that one should accept without considering whether one can properly care for them. If something truly is a blessing, then it needs to be handled with care. In the case of the Collins family, there needs to be emotional support, individual attention, and a stable environment according to every single person. Additionally, people have the right to choose whether or not they want children. That choice should be based on an honest assessment of their resources, time, emotional capacity, and ability to provide a stable, nurturing environment. It shouldn't be based on guilt, pressure, or the belief that God will magically make everything work out. Karissa is certainly balancing out the birth rates on her own, along with the other quiverful families we have in this world. But the scary part is this might be at the children's own expense. If they don't find room to grow on their own away from their strict families, then they might have regrets. Just like Brittany, they may be bitter about missing out on fun childhood memories with friends or not developing emotionally. They may also hate that their upbringing pushed them to seek therapy in their adult years. What'll become of Karissa Collins and her family? It's unclear for now. Karissa's entire personality is framed around her kids. Take them away and she doesn't amount to much on the internet. So if ever a day comes that she realizes her excesses and tries to make up for shortcomings as a mother, Karissa's reign of internet terror might eventually end. And if this happens, it doesn't automatically absolve Karissa of her own harmful theology and parenting tactics. We can only hope for change and pray that when that day comes, it wouldn't be at any cost. What do you think? Can the Collins family grow to become one of the normal ones? Or will they head down the road of regret and produce adults like Brittany? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video.